Hello, friends, and welcome to the 68th episode of All New Snap Judgments. As almost always, I'm Roy Rogers, and joining me today is my friend and yours, the one, the only, your favorite Pokemon Pocket YouTuber, Aaron Pulse Glazer. Aaron, my friend, how are you on this, it's not officially fall yet, but the sun did set at 7 p.m. today. So how are you on this almost fall day, my friend?
I don't know. I don't get to go outside anymore. The school year has started. I go from school building to indoors. There's no outside. Although I changed my room this year and I have like a beautiful view of the field now, and it's really, really nice.
Well, that is very nice.
Outside.
That is. It's picturesque, one might say. Well, real quick, Aaron, before we really kick off the show, would you like to let our loyal listeners and loyal viewers know about a new project that you have ongoing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you sort of announced it already, but I'm doing a Pokemon Pocket show. We're doing 2 or 3 videos a week about the new game. We're going to get you all the best and coolest decks. There's not a ranked mode, so you're mostly just doing it to beat the crap out of people. But hey, it'll be fun either way. The game seems really fun, and I'm making a lot of the content with Noah, my son, who's 8 and super, super excited to be on YouTube. So yeah, check it out. It's the channel name is just Pulse Glazer. If you type in Pulse Glazer Pokemon, it pops right up.
Exciting times, I can say. I have nothing to do with Glazer's content. I haven't even been invited to be a guest on any of the episodes, so I
figured you barely have time for this. I didn't want to stress you out.
I can say that I enjoyed his first 2 video uploads a great deal, that is my definitely not biased opinion.
Right, the 3rd one's up today, and your YouTube watched. I hate to tell this to you.
Oh, well, I haven't even had time to watch Agatha or Penguin yet, so YouTube channels aren't on there. But enough about how busy we are. Let's jump into what our loyal listeners and loyal viewers wanted, which is our very special guest. So, Glazer, who are our very special guests this evening?
We've got 2 of my favorite people to watch stream Marvel Snap. It's Nathan and Logan, the nerds of paradise, and their absolutely adorable puppy that is giving me so much joy right now. How you doing, fellas?
Hey, we're doing great. Thanks for having us on.
Absolute pleasure. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about yourselves and how they can find you?
Yeah. So we are the Nerds of Paradise. We have all kinds of social media accounts. I think we're most active just on Twitch, though. And we stream typically in the morning before we go to work, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's kind of funny. We started our...
Sorry, I'm going to giggle every time I love doggos.
Yeah, he's very happy right now playing with his toy. We started our stream as part of a group stream, a bunch of friends of ours, and we were trying to be a variety channel, and everybody got busy, but since we were taking the morning time slot, we were really able to commit, and we've just been going strong, so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a good time, and we're brothers, so it's good for family bonding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, and that is, what's your Twitch handles if people want to check you out?
Nerds of Paradise Official.
Cool. All right, Roy, take us away.
Yeah, real quick, before we really dig in, I just want to remind our loyal listeners and loyal viewers how to engage with us on various socials. We are on Elon Musk's hell site at SnapJudgeCast.
Oh, not for long, man. Not for long.
Apparently not for long, but...
Shit is grinding on me.
Until Glazer quits, we are at SnapJudgeCast on that hell site. But most importantly, we are incredibly grateful to be the official podcasting partner of Marvel Snap Zone. We're so incredibly grateful for their support, and we think that you should definitely go and check them out. They are the best website for Marvel Snap news, Marvel Snap analysis, many guests of the show. Den, who is going to be on next episode, Lauren, who's been on many of our episodes, and many others are writers for... We had Safety Blade, who used to write for the... on last week, he used to write for Marvel Snap Zone. Lots of Marvel Snap Zone folks have been on our show. We're happy to be supported by them. Our email is snapjudgmentspodcast@gmail.com. And most importantly, though, last but not least, is our YouTube channel at Snap Judgments Pod, where statistics say you are probably watching this. But if you are a loyal listener and want to become a loyal viewer instead, Glazer, what would those folks find on the YouTube right now?
7 days a week of videos. Best decks in Marvel Snap. Fridays had like 3 decks you can't get anywhere else, like that are top infinite leaderboard, and then a bunch of weekend mission stuff too.
Awesome. Don't forget to support us on Patreon with patreon.com/snapjudgments. It is where the money comes for the various tournaments, including the Snap Judgments League that Glazer organizes. Because let me tell you, friends, Glazer spends a lot of money on Marvel Snap in this community. The way he justifies it to his small child and wife is that your Patreon support makes it semi-justifiable. And so please, if you enjoy the content Glazer does and the way he supports the community, subscribe, follow, whatever the term is, support on Patreon. All right, let's dig into this week's card. All right, Glazer, I'm going to screw up pronouncing this. How do you pronounce this?
Arana.
Arana. All right, so she is a Series 5 6K tokens. She's a 1/1, and she has the ability, activate, give the next card you play +2 power and move it to the right. Kind of an activate reverse Iron Fist with a plus power. So sure, okay.
Just creep on up, baby.
Just creep on up. All right, Birds of Paradise, David and Logan, thoughts and feelings about this latest amazing member of the Spider-Man family who's come to Marvel Snap.
I mean, like all Spider-Man family members, she is amazing. More than most of the Spider-Man members in Snap, if we're being honest. Incredible for destroy decks, incredible for move decks, and I'm sure that there's things with her we haven't even discovered yet. She's pretty high on my list of cards to pick up if you got the resources.
Yeah, she just goes in so many decks. Not even just move decks, but she does make move decks very powerful. I mean, her alone with Human Torch is an 8-power Human Torch, which is pretty wild. And I saw a cool video where someone played Galactus they activate Arana, and then they play Galactus. And Galactus moves, and then it was Symbiote Spider-Man, and then Symbiote Spider-Man activated, and then Galactus trigger. So all kinds of fun stuff you can do with Arana. Love her.
Yeah. Activates a powerful ability. It's cool to see it.
So I like this card. I'm very thankful it doesn't work with Brood. I think if it worked with Brood, this would be the best one drop in the game. So right now it's just one of the best one drops in the game. Like they released 2 insanely powerful one drops this season, and I'm not actually sure which one is better.
Yeah, I haven't spent my resources on this card yet, but everything I've seen about it, it's been extremely powerful. I think this might be the best non-utility one drop in the game. I think Nico makes an argument for just like her flexibility isn't quite like, this is still like a stat stick combined with a little bit of move. I think it's like kind of clear what this does. But I think it's really hard to compete with that. Like, I think that this is extremely power crept and just like a pure power level, right? Like, I think one of the things I really had liked about like Kate, who's a 2-drop, not a 1-drop, but of course Nico, the other sort of traditionally powerful 1-drop, is that it's more about flexibility. Like, it's not perfect in any situation, but has a lot of like interesting situations that it creates. This does really cool things and really powerful things, but like what's printed on the tin is what you get, which is movement and additional power. And that could just be a good utility play, but also, of course, could be busted in the Human Torch and other interactions that we noted before. So I think this is just arguably a powerful card in an inarguably pretty powerful month. I know folks are down on Symbiote Spider-Man, and maybe Madam Web didn't change everything like we thought she would. She was maybe a little bit closer to her movie counterpart. But
she's in every deck right now. She's in like every deck.
But that's sort of my feelings about the latest Spider-Man family. Anything else, folks? Thoughts, feelings, opinions, hot takes?
If you're in the market for a move enabler, she's the best one. Especially if you're talking about 1-drops. Like, if you need to cut one, don't cut Arana. Cut either Iron Fist or Ghost Spider. Pretty clear.
But if you're playing move deck, why cut any of these?
No, yeah, play them all. Play them all.
So we'll talk more about this going forward, but I think like they made move tier 1. I don't think move is like far and away the best thing, but I think move is tier 1. I also think that it's probably on purpose that like they're pushing like Hela and Agatha decks now, things that don't really have interaction, because interaction can still give move a really hard time. And so like move is made better because all these things that can't mess with move's big power are also really good. Although the like height of the meta is insanely high right now.
Dang, the overall power levels, what you mean, of the meta?
How much power you need to win lanes and win the game is very high right now.
Okay, that tracks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it feels like some of the new decks are, you must be this high to ride.
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
Good
would
metaphor.
you like to compete in the metagame? That's cool. Can you make 20 power a lane? If not, go away.
Yeah. I've seen Phoenix Force list struggle. Like Phoenix Force that has the multi-bang going. If it does it on turn 5, just struggle to compete. And I'm just like, wow, that's probably a little higher than we need it to be. But yeah, that's where we are.
All right, we ready to talk about some changes? All right, the balance update, the activate balance update that we've been discussing, talking about for a while is out. So I think it makes sense to take these cards one at a time. One of my favorite underplayed Marvel Snap cards, Black Swan. She's been changed. She's now a 2/3. And she has the activate ability until end of next turn. Your 1-cost cards cost 0. Birds of Paradise, thoughts about Black Swan's change?
Is powerful. Gosh, like considerably better than it used to be, right? Every time you're playing a deck that's like, I would like to flood the board, you want to choose your moment to do that, and activate lets you do it. But it also kind of limits the turns that you can play Black Swan, because if you draw her next to last, you're like, well, that's a 2/3. So huge upside. I think that's reflected in some of the balance lists going around. But there's a little bit of a downside to activate, because there is a turn that you can play it and not get value from it.
And I think that's why they changed her to be a 2/3 instead of a 3/5, which I am kind of sad about, because my favorite thing to do with Black Swan was to play in Cerebro 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's very good with Hitmonkey.
Mm-hmm.
So there used to be 5 turns you didn't want to play her, and now there are 2. So that's still
true.
an upside, right?
That's
like
a really good point.
Yeah.
Like you wanted to play her on turn 5 or never, right?
Yep.
Like, so she's still better now, right? Like, I don't think she would have been better as a 3/5. I think as a 3/5 she would have been worse as an activate than on reveal, but I think as a 2/3 she's better. I've gone back and forth 15 times over whether I think she's better as a 2/3 on reveal than a 3/5 on reveal, but like I'm whatever, close enough, right? Like at that point I'm fine either way. I think so I think the problem Black Swan has been running into is that bounce isn't tall enough to ride right now, which is crazy to say, right? But like we're gonna look at a bounce deck in a little bit. What we're gonna do is we're gonna look at 5 decks that didn't exist in their current form like 2-3 weeks ago and talk about them. Because the meta has been wildly shaken up over the last 2.5-3 weeks. But I don't like I'm not sure bounce exists. Like, and Black Swan being like, bounce is way better now. Bounce is way more powerful now. Should make bounce exist, but like, I don't know if it does. Like, I've completely, like, all my bounce decks but 1 are deleted, and it's an Ajax deck that just happens to have some bounce. I mean,
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's dangerous out there. Like bounce still has incredibly high games, but when it can't put it all together, it hurts. And I think that's why I think in the last few days I've seen a lot of bounce clog, which helps it fight against some of the other decks we'll be discussing.
So, like, I do a lot of work to get Werewolf to like 11 power, and Vulture is less than 2 moves for 16 power. So, like people are like, how big do you make Vulture? And like, if you move Vulture once, you just move Werewolf 3 times, right? Like that's enough. It's huge. The sheer scaling they put into bounce into Move is crazy. And then, obviously, well, the next card we're going to talk about.
Well, let's talk about that card. I think probably the most controversial of the recent balance changes is that everybody's favorite pixel variant is now a 4/6 Hellcow with the activate. Discard 2 cards from your hand. Woo! All right, Birds of Paradise, what do you think? Spicy.
It's good. I was actually just playing Hela before we recorded this and
Get off our
winning.
show. Get off.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
I mean, there's no doubt it does exactly what you thought it would do when you read the patch notes. It's definitely a big improvement to Hela.
Yeah, we chased Hela out of the meta game a little bit. It's back, and it is absolutely one. It's a cheap deck, right? Just about anybody can put it together pretty quickly out of Series 3 cards. The only card you kind of want is Blink, that is more than Series 3. So it's nice to have a very approachable deck, and it's not skill intensive, right? So I expect we'll see a lot of this until some changes are made, or heaven help us, something even taller becomes heavily meta.
Yeah, I mean, think about if talking about Hela with Hellcow, just juxtaposition between that and the bounce deck we were just talking about, where you have to be so careful with your sequencing. It's like you better not have stayed up late the night before if you're trying to win with bouts. But if you're playing Hela, you can turn on your favorite TV show and still win some games. So I think it's going to be around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get rid of this next Thursday. Hopefully it's around for about 7 days from this recording. But so I don't know if Hela is too strong right now, because I don't think its win rate's really through the roof. But it's impossible to stay in on a snap from Hela right now. If they play Hellcow and snap, or snap and they're Hela, how do you stay? It's just, I don't understand. Their cube equity is through the frickin' roof because of this card. They have a 2 discard at the end of the game when basically all that's left in their hand is big things that then Hell is going to bring back. It's utterly absurd. I cannot believe that they did this in any way, shape, or form. This is just, it's so it's so wildly impossible to play against and know what you're doing, right? I don't get it in any real way. I'm very confused about what they thought was going to happen.
Yeah, and the only counterplay to activate cards is
Red Guardian.
Red Guardian. Thank you. Yeah, Hellcow is basically a combination Invisible Woman MODOK in one card.
Yeah.
It costs less.
Yeah. Oof. And has less deck building cost, right? There's no draw order. Mm-hmm. There's no need for magic. There's no you see if you see Hellcow, it's just well, and they can get down to 1 card in deck because of Jubilee and Blank, right? Where they can basically guarantee Hella with both of those. It's just, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I genuinely don't know what you're supposed to do. Unless they get extraordinarily unlucky with an early Lady Sif, there's just no chance of Hella being discarded. It's obnoxious. They cannot draw Hellcow. That's your hope, right? They don't draw Hellcow, you got a shot.
I'll tell you what you do about it. You play Clog.
Yeah.
I think that is a predator that'll probably rise because it's not hard for Clog to be cool. So I have priority on turn 6, and your lanes are full, and I hope you enjoy your Hela for 1 or 2 cards that you can get.
So what I want the answer to be is this is the time for Symbiote Panther.
I thought you were going to say this is the time for Echo. And then you're going second, and you just...
well, Echo doesn't do anything.
No, it's not Echo. That's Ghost, right? It's Ghost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can Shanga lane. It's just, it doesn't usually matter.
Yeah, you have to get lucky.
Yeah, you'd have to get very lucky. So even the Hela lane is really big, because they're just sort of stacking everything in 1 lane. Unless you Cosmo, right? They're all right, here's a Blade in a lane, here's the Sif in a lane, that's 8. Here's the Hellcow in a lane, and now we're at 14, and now I'm just gonna Hela somewhere else, and if a 12 goes there, I got a 26 power lane.
Does Alioth Lockdown become the good guy, where you can keep their Hela to a single lane and then murder it with Alioth?
How do you lock them down?
I mean, you got
Storm?
Storm, you got Cosmo,
Yeah.
you've got Goose.
Yeah.
You've got a variety of different cards you could use to tell them,
That's
hey,
true.
play Hela here. And then just hit it with the Goliath.
My thumbnail for yesterday's video is the hero we need, and it's a leech deck.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
that
true.
works too.
So over under on us getting a Cosmo for activate.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Maybe our Christmas present will be that'll be the season pass card for.
But like, we don't need
December.
it for anything but Hellcow. Like, all right, so like we can go through the 4 activate cards we have, right? Like Black Swan, Mobius completely shuts off. Right? Like Mobius completely shuts it off, and that card is very vulnerable to red card. Arana, everything kills, right? Like a Killmonger, a Stiff Breeze, whatever. She's not happening. And like you can trigger her, but like if they had Prio and she's dead, nothing happens. It's not like Beyond Reveals where it happens anyway. Symbiote Spider-Man, like you just shove a Cosmo in that lane, and it'll still do the thing, but it won't matter. Right?
Mhm.
Like, or like, you know how I lost 1,000,000 cubes and had to stop playing the deck with Symbiote Spider-Man? Magneto really messes up Symbiote Spider-Man.
Uh-huh.
You're like, I'm gonna activate, and they're like, that Symbiote Spider-Man's over there. What you activate? And I'm like, nothing. Have some nice cubes. Yeah, have some nice cubes, my friend. But yeah, but like, there's a million ways to counter other activate. It's that Hellcow specifically has nothing you can do, because there's like, if we did something to interact with the discard pile of opponents, we might get somewhere. And like, the Fenrir Wolf is a decent start, but probably not enough.
Oh baby, Lane Line of the Void for
we hear
Snap. There we go. All right. Speaking of cards that will never discard Hela, we have the new design of Swordmaster. All right. Swordmaster is a 3/7 with the on reveal, discard an odd costed card from your hand. All right. We're exploring that Moon Knight design space, but the opposite, obviously, because Moon Knight did even. Nathan, Logan, what do you think?
It's a tough one. I've been trying to think about what to do with this card, and I haven't come up with anything good. I'll tell you that. I think when you look at the cards that are odd that you want to discard, there's actually no discard payoffs. So then you're left with what high cost, like five cost card would you want to discard for value, and there's also really not that many.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, yeah, it's true. You can discard your arishem. Yeah,
Sarah.
That's interesting. I feel like this is a card that when it comes together, like it's going to be ridiculous when someone finally figures it out. Because generally in Snap, like your turn 6 wants to be either a 5 and a 1, like a Stature and a Darkhawk, or 2 3s like in Surfer, or a 6, right? Nobody's like, hey, can I do a 4 and a 2? Because that's what you need for Swordsmaster is you need 1 or 2 5s, Ghost Rider, and then everything else is even cost. The Sarah is really interesting, Glazer. If that, man.
So the problem is there's only one Ghost Rider, I think. Like there's Ghost Rider is just one card, right?
And
the thing you can do with Moon Knight is you can do, well, I guess now Agatha shenanigans. We'll talk about that shortly. But like, what are you really trying to get rid of here? Is that like, if you don't see Ghost Rider, that is this just I played a bad card and now I'm down a card, right? Like,
or what do you if you don't see Ghost Rider?
So well, a lot
if you
of
don't
it
see
is,
this. You know, what do you do, right?
I feel like Hela has destroyed the space that Ghost Rider and cards like Ghost Rider could explore, right? Like, you can't have too many cards like Ghost Rider because Hela, right? Like, that would just be too much for Hela. So, like, Hela's really limiting that design space.
Yeah, it's true. I do wonder if there's maybe something you could do with Black Knight, Swordsmaster, and maybe Red Skull. There's maybe something there, but again, the power level in the format right now is very high.
Yeah, 14 power. You're like, oh, you played a 14, great.
Yeah.
Me too. You have to pay 4 energy for that card too. So
yeah.
And to be fair, like this can hit Dawkins, Blade. There's the new card
Mhm.
coming out that is odd costed to be discarded to get
Yeah,
bigger.
they just nerfed that.
Have they nerfed it already?
So it's a 1/2, and it used to get +1 for every discard, and then give a card in play its power. Now
Right.
it's +2, but it only gives the card in play 2 power each time. So if you
Yeah.
make this like a 7, it's not giving 7 power, right? So like
Yeah.
it's no longer a buff your hand card. You still need to figure like a turn to play it at the end of the game. Like that card, I don't even think it's good anymore. But like I thought it was great. I'm not sure it's good.
That's what, in 2 months, right? November?
That's like 3 weeks.
That's October? Oh, okay.
It's October. It's one of the symbiotes, and October
okay.
is symbiote season because Halloween.
Well, also because of Venom 3 comes out.
What's a Venom 3? I've never seen a Venom movie. I'm not
Oh
watching
my
that
god.
shit.
Okay. Well, before we transition, I want...
Wait. I'm sorry, before we transition, I still want to credit Nina. Nina's noob.
That's
for
what I
this.
was about to
Oh,
do.
were you?
So, yeah.
I didn't know you saw the Nina. I'm sorry, Pat.
No, you did a better job than me, Aaron. Yes. Thank you, Nina, for this adorable Jeff-based art. If you're watching the YouTube, good job, Nina. All right. Let's talk about some decks. So, Glazer, a little bit more context about these decks, then I'll read the first one here for our loyal listeners.
So there are 5 decks that I think about 2 weeks ago. Literally almost exactly 2 weeks ago now. Just didn't exist. They weren't decks that anyone would play. There's one of these decks that's sort of a stretch for that. And they changed enough cards to sort of create new decks. And I just want to talk about how good they are, whether they're healthy for the game, what they make better and worse as far as what already exists, and just have a discussion based around these 5 decks. Cool.
All right. So we got a Husky Hela deck, this pretty classic style of Hela with, of course, Hellcow instead of MODOK or something like that in here. So we've got Blade, Luke Cage, Lady Sif, Jubilee, the Big Bad Cow, Hellcow, Black Cat, Blink, Hela, Magneto, Giganto, Infinite, and Death. All right. Birds of Paradise, classic Hela. What do you think about where it is right now? And its triumphant return.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. If you enjoy these kinds of decks, you can play it.
Now, this is coming from, you have to understand, Nathan was maybe the greatest Hela acolyte back when you had to do the MODOK thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, back when it was bad and it took work. That's fine.
Back when it was bad and people whined so much they nerfed it from orbit. Yes, it was so terrible.
No. With MODOK, Hela was never why it was nerfed. It got nerfed when it was like Corvus, and that was all anyone played. Every 4th game on ladder was just that stupid deck.
Yep.
Yeah. So, like, is this deck fun for me to play? No, absolutely not. Do I think this deck is particularly clever? No, absolutely not. But do I think there needs to be powerful, approachable decks for young players to use? Yeah. And I think Hela fits that. Like, does it need to be toned down? I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's still kind of early days for this build. But I know lots of casual players who are like, oh, I just found out about this awesome Hela deck. It makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we need decks like that. Do I like it? No. Do I think it should not exist? Not yet. Give it a couple weeks, and then maybe I'll tell you it shouldn't exist.
I mean, I will say my favorite archetype does prey pretty heavily on Hela, which is I love to make things with Jean Grey. So, yeah. But it is really fun when Hela's on reveal happens and you get like 60 power of cards into play. Like, it's fun to see. And when you are a new player and you're reading cards and you read Hela, it's a very splashy, cool ability, and it makes you want to collect the cards to go with it to play it. I mean, but again, I think the deck's it's pretty good. I haven't played a lot with it, but you can definitely win with it.
Right.
I have a couple of questions here. So the Luke Cage is here because of Ajax, right?
Well, Hela gives -2 to everything it brings back.
Oh, that's right. She does that now. Right.
Plus,
that shows you how long it's been since I
Ajax,
played Hela.
Plus Ajax, and a lot of the junk decks that want to counter Hela are running Ajax. So you just say, like, if the Ajax is extra big, because if Hela goes off, you're just sitting there with like a 28 power Ajax, right? That can just steal a lane all by itself, unless that's the infinite lane. which is obviously a pure luck thing, which royally sucks, but what are you going to do? So it says I'm doing 2 for 1. Husky actually does not have Luke Cage here. Comies is responsible for the Luke Cage. Italian player, won the World Championship. Husky has Wasp in that spot because Husky insists on beating Jean Grey.
There we go.
He also likes the play of turn 4 or turn 5, just straight up go Wasp into Blink.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I like the Luke Cage better myself.
Me too.
Every
was
card
torn
that
on which
you
to
bring
include.
back adds 2 power to Luke Cage effectively, so that's nice.
Luke sitting there as a 3/10 is nice.
Yeah.
That then counters all your opponent's bullshit. Because the other card that really, really messes up Hela right now is US Agent.
Yep. It was so nice of them to give Hela that -2 so that people would tech against the cards that would have beat you if you didn't do it.
Yeah. I don't want to hate this deck as much as I do.
So Black Cat is just here because there's no other discard enablers except for Hellcow. So just in case you don't see Hellcow, there's
Blade, Lady Sif.
Oh, that's true. That's the
So
latest.
Blade isn't easily targeted. Some versions are running Symbiote Spider-Man over Giganto too. I saw one that was running Lockjaw for people who didn't have Blink. There's ways to do it, like where it's totally fine. But like Black Cat's just, if you have Luke Cage in the deck, a 4/10, right? Like you're just like, all right, great, that's an extra 10. So that's basically always going to discard itself, right? And then you can Blade off one big thing, and you can Lady Sif off, hopefully Death. And then when you Hela, everything else big is gone, right? So, like, because there's only 2 or 3 cards left in your hand at that point, if you've discarded 2. So it's just a couple big cards left over. And then you win.
Okay.
Also, Hela fairly often in this list seems to become Death if you bring back a Blink. Which is not a great feeling. It's like, hey, there's a +6. Awesome.
just for funsies.
Yeah.
I do like that this deck is only one Series 5 card. And I mean, Blink is good in this deck, but I'm sure you can find something. Yeah,
it's not as good, but you can Lockjaw. If for the Lockjaw version they're running Luke, I think the Lockjaw version should definitely be running Wasp. Because, Wasp, Lockjaw makes a lot of sense together.
Yeah.
I would not... I'm convinced I wouldn't hate this deck so much if I could figure out how to snap into or against it. And I can. Like, if they snap me, I don't know what to do. And if I snap it, I don't know what... Like, I feel like I'm just like, we hope you go to the wrong spots. And, like, sometimes they do, right?
Yes.
I beat... Hilariously. I beat TLSG with this list. He was like, I went 7-2 with this list. This is amazing. I played a Moon Knight, and my Moon Knight hit his Hela with, like, 18... because everything is even cost in this deck, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I had no business doing that, but it did. But, like, I don't know. It's just... I don't love decks that play 1 card a turn. I don't think that's a really fun skill expression. I think they should exist. But I think the limit of playing 1 card a turn shouldn't be, but then last turn, 6 cards.
I know, that sounds pretty sweet to me, Aaron. I think you just, you just hate fun. So
I do. Again, like, I don't think the win rate for this is ever going to be through the roof, right? But, like, I think the cube rate has to be near the top of the game fundamentally always.
Very good against bots also.
Yeah.
Shit, it needs bots. Bots are like, what are you doing? You played 3 power. Snap, snap, snap.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just want infinite, this is the easiest thing to play.
If all you care about in Marvel Snap is hitting infinite, beating bots well is half the battle, so...
Yeah. I mean, so people that really struggle beating bots, my serious advice, serious advice, as soon as you realize it's a bot, and you can tell now, click the, like, profile, and if they don't have an alliance, guess what? It's a bot.
Is that officially confirmed that there's no fake alliances? That
there have not been yet, at least in the 2 seasons that I've checked. But so all I do is I play, like, in 1 lane, and I just play to lose that 1 lane, and then, like, the bot will auto try and lose on turn 6, even if they snap you almost always. So, like, don't stress it. Just, like, play poorly and get your AQ. It doesn't matter. You don't have to play a real game Marvel Snap. Very rarely do pre-infinite bots try and win anymore.
Right.
They don't cheat anymore.
Very rarely. Like once in a while you will, but like you get so many free 8-cubers that you hit the one that beats you. It's like, all right, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like
a tax.
You get taxed 1 8-cuber for every like 4 or 5 you win.
All right, well, let's move on to the second deck here.
Sorry, one last question for
Sure.
this. Is the existence of this deck, because I want to ask this about all these. This is a new deck. This is a 2-part question. Is the existence of this deck healthy for Marvel Snap? And what type of deck does its existence either enhance or limit?
I think combo decks, or was this to Roy?
No, go ahead,
everyone.
guys.
I think combo decks are good to have in Snap because it incentivizes decks with counterplay like Cosmo. Actually, Cosmo is a great card to have in your deck right now. I think more people should be playing it.
Don't say that. Don't say
100%.
that.
Go ahead.
Oh no. It's healthy for this sort of deck to be here for a while. But it really cuts out a lot of mid-range decks. Like, I love trying to play the Scar. I'm going to play all the 410s, and then I'm going to play Scar and Shang-Chi. Aha. You can't do that right now. Like, just cannot do it. Hela will dunk on you and make fun of you for working so hard for 410s. So it takes those decks out. I think it does encourage more things with Cosmo, with Junk. And I think it's good for new players. But I don't want it to be the top of the deck or the top of the decks forever.
Yeah, I think that this deck is fine to have. It is a little sad that it kind of gets nickel and dime decks, like that mid-range moon Knight deck that I really enjoyed playing. Like, if you get really lucky with Moon Knight, like you do get some auto wins, as Glazer pointed out, but if you don't, you're in a lot of trouble. Like, that deck just doesn't have really the capacity to beat a Hela deck that isn't either completely unlucky with the losing to the hand control elements, or also Hela can sometimes get discarded by Black Bolt, depending on what their hand is like. And if you don't get incredibly unlucky against those kind of mid-range decks, then you lose. And that's, I think, a little bit of the tragedy of the recent meta. I think, at least in my experience, and sort of like high pre-infinite, I guess, is that mid-range decks were more powerful than they have been for a while. Like, you could really nickel and dime people outside of just pure clog. And this definitely collapses that part of the metagame, except for the true diehards and dice rollers who are like, look, there's like a 25% chance this Hela will put these cards in the wrong place, so I'll stay in because I want to see if that will happen. And 25% of the time, you'll win that game, and then 75% you won't. And the Hela player will appreciate you staying in. So I think that's kind of where I feel this deck is right now.
The pattern.
We'll say a turn 5 Dr. Octopus will often pull Hela out of their hand.
That's interesting. Maybe I'll give that a try. So, yeah, but if it doesn't, you're pulling like a 410, right? Like, you're like, shit! So,
and
then
hopefully
you lose, right?
They discard anything from Blade or Black Cat or whatever.
Yeah, it's rough. Alright, I don't like the pattern this promotes, where like the only way to compete with this is to play other high rolly shit, like Tribunal, and like and then the whole meta has to become that, or answers to that. And I think it creates a binary where there doesn't necessarily need to be one, because I think last week there was no real binary to the meta. There was like Elsa decks still, right? And Elsa decks again, but there were thena decks that weren't Elsa decks, but there were Darkhawk decks again. There was Surfer decks. There was just a little bit of everything, and now like almost none of that exists because this is too big for them. And like the only thing that could exist is something that's that big, and everything that's this big is just like super high rolling, right? Like it's either you do the thing or you don't, and like the game becomes who sees their combo instead of like who plays better Snap, and I don't love that. Yeah. All right, now we can move on to the next deck that exists. Both of these were created by Husky, by the way. Husky is on fire. So Husky created this Agatha list. Roy, want to read it to us?
Yes, I will. All right. Ooh, Agatha. It was her all along. So we got Black Knight, we've got Hydra Bob, we've got Moon Knight, one of my favorite cards in the game, Makari, Lady Sith, Wave, Ghost Rider, Claw, Black Bolt, Legion, Stature, and our girl Agatha. Ooh, all right. This is a spicy deck. All right. Nathan, Logan, what do you think?
I was so excited for Agatha when the change happened. I was like, all right, this has always been something really fun to try. And it's always goofy and silly. And it's almost always works. Now it's like, oh, it just works most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. And it is just great at dropping stats. Is this bad to have in the metagame? No, not at all. My question is, does this survive in the metagame with Hela? Like, does this go tall enough to compete with Hela? It does have some nice pieces of interaction. Like, I love a lot of stuff about the Agatha list. I think it's got more depth than you would expect to your play patterns. But I don't know if it survives if Hela becomes transcendent. It feels like it does not hit quite the same amount of power.
Agatha's not a joke anymore, so enjoy for as long as that lasts. It is pretty cool that she thins your deck, so you're more likely to draw the pieces that are really good with her. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. We do play. We're Agatha enjoyers. As you come over to the stream, on especially on a day when Logan's piloting, we will often have an Agatha deck. I don't know, once a month, maybe. I don't know.
If the White Palace ever becomes the
oh yeah,
the daily location, play nothing but Agatha. So
that's mean.
That is very mean.
So funny.
We had a few Insta retreats when we were testing pre-Husky Agatha, and people hit the Agatha, and they're like, "Well, time to go.
Gotta go."
I love Agatha decks too. I'm incredibly angry at this deck because it has a bunch of cards I don't own in it, like Makari. I don't own that card.
You don't need Makari in any way.
Hydra Bob, definitely don't own that card.
You don't need Hydra Bob in any way, shape, or form.
But the rest of them I own. So
then you're fine. You can play it.
Okay, good. Well, then I'm all about this deck because it's sweet as hell. Like, I love how, the Agatha strategy, I've enjoyed it since, literally the beginning of the first time I got, above 80, it was playing Agatha. I just enjoy the heck out of just, both the silliness that she will engage in sometimes, but also, the deck building challenge she presents. I think it's, a really, really sweet design space where both the novel games where, for some strange reason, you don't see your wave or any of your discard cards until later in the game, and Agatha's just sort of playing things, is really just kind of, fun and novel, and it's, hard, and, I don't know. I'm one of the person, if I lose to an Agatha deck, or I see my opponents playing Agatha deck, I get excited. So I think there's good feelings all around to me when Agatha is in the metagame. I mean, I guess if literally Agatha becomes mathematically, always wins all of her games, then it will stop being fun. But I think even this much more consistent version of the deck than has existed before is nowhere near that certainty. So I say one Disney tie-in. So yes, let's do it. Watch Agatha all along every week on Disney Plus on Wednesdays, and play Agatha while you're watching.
Yeah, you can. It's not too hard. You can do that.
Yeah.
So, in one way, this is almost exactly like Hela. Both are extraordinarily on the rails decks. The deck tells you what you want to do each turn. So if anyone's brand new to this deck, you want to play Black Knight on turn 1. You have a better chance of playing Black Knight on turn 1 than any other deck. If you don't play Black Knight on turn 1, you have a reasonable shot at Agatha doing it on turn 2, right? Turn 3, you choose between Moon Knight to get rid of your Agatha, or Lady Sif to get rid of your Agatha, and if you don't have either, you play Wave. And then you play Wave will let Agatha play Agatha, right? Then you either play a Shard or a Ghost Rider. Then if you didn't play Moon Knight, you play Black Knight, and if you did play Moon Knight, you play Legion. Then you go Claw and Stature. The end. That's the entire play pattern, turn by turn. Like, this isn't like a turn by turn where you're like, and then sometimes you. No, that's what you do. The only choice you have on turn 3 of which way you want to get rid of your
Glazer, you don't have any choices. Agatha has choices. Like,
no, because Agatha only plays one turn in this deck. She plays turn 2. She doesn't play any other turns. You get to control turn 1, and you're getting rid of her on turn 3.
That's fair. That's fair.
And like, you're in control of turn 1 and turn 3, so she's playing turn 2. Agatha does not play this deck. You play this deck, but you might as well be Agatha choosing locations. There is no fundamental difference. It is that on the rails. So it's much like Hela like that. Where it's not like Hela is in its output, right? Like, Hela's got like this wildly huge output. This has got this like, but it's inconsistent. This has got this wildly consistent output. I don't think this can generally beat a Hela deck, and if Hela becomes the meta, it'll have to go away. But I think this is good into a lot of the things that beat Hela decks. And I think, like, you just take the Moon Knight 50-50 a lot, right? Or like 1/3 chance, and you're like, ooh, thanks, Snap. And like, you're just totally fine with that. Like, especially if you can like time it like for turn 5, you play. Oh, that was. You guys okay?
Yeah, we're
but
good.
Like, okay, if you can like do the turn 5 Moon Knight thing, where like they've only got a couple 6s in hand, right? Like, you're just like, all right, sure, they're either gonna get this or I just run, and like, I'm okay with all of this. I think that this deck is very fun and very healthy. Moon Knight is very, very good in this deck, and like answers a lot of stuff. Feels real bad when you get the Phoenix Force combo and Moon Knight gets rid of your Phoenix Force. Just gonna let you know that.
Feels like good, you mean?
Yeah, no. Actually physically hurt me. I was like, Phoenix Force combo! No.
So I have a question. If, say, someone wanted to play this deck, but they don't own Hydra Bob and Makari, what would they replace those cards with?
Hold on, I'll tell you, because I don't own those cards, and I have this list.
Nice. Do it.
So, instead of Hydra Bob, I used Silver Sable. I thought that was totally reasonable.
Okay.
And
I think I own that one.
Yeah.
You do. You opened it while we were on
my
here.
game to load for me to tell you what the other one was.
I know the other one too, because the original version of this, I'd have to find it. Give me 2 seconds. The original version of this didn't have Makari, and then Makari is the only card Husky didn't put it, and then someone threw Makari in, and the win rate went even higher, and everyone was like, ooh.
Free card. So, in a deck
like, if you want to hit Infinite, this is even easier than Hela, just for the record.
Oh, baby. There we go.
Like this is so on rails. I don't know how to over-explain how this is on rails.
Vision was the other card.
Yeah, it was Vision. Yeah Vision's fair. Okay in the list. Yeah, he's not like important. I feel like there's got to be a
Choose your favorite 5. I think there's a good argument that you could use Gamora in that slot as well.
Yeah, I can see that,
because you can suffer from like, I need one more large card.
Yeah, Legion is also a flex slot for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot Legion was high series, because Legion's been out for like over a year, and they refused to drop him.
He's also not been played a huge amount recently, so it's easy to forget.
He comes in and out. He was Legion. This deck and Legion became popular because everyone was doing the stupid Storm combo that we're going to talk about momentarily.
All right. Well, I think we're ready to sadly leave Agatha to Wednesdays on Disney Plus, and let's do about Eva Move. All right, we've got this week's card. Arana, right? Was I close at least that time?
Arana.
Okay, it kills me every time. My Spanish pronunciation is terrible. All right, so Ghost Spider, Human Torch, Iron Fist, Dagger, Madam Web, Falcon, Cloak. Oh,
yeah.
Just in time for Cosmo. The dog barks. All right, Juggernaut, Vulture, and Heimdall.
So this version of the list, before we go anywhere, is specifically teched for Hela. That's the Juggernaut Cosmo. There's different cards in it when different matchups. So please, take it away, our Paradise friends.
This deck makes big numbers now. Really big numbers. I've kind of always, actually, I've been playing Move kind of a little bit every season, and I think it's been better than people thought it was. And now that we have Madam Web and Arana, it makes a lot of power, and I really like the mix of disruption that Cosmo adds to this deck. You will frequently find your Vulture and Human Torch getting punched by Shang-Chi or shrunk by Shadow King, and Cosmo gives you a lane where they can be safe. Plus, you have ways of getting cards in there and out of there because of Madam Web and Arana that just don't even interact with Cosmo. So it's kind of like protection and disruption in one.
This, if you're drawing well, and I've played Move it enough that I've seen him draw poorly far more than I like. You give your opponent an unwinnable situation on turn 6 where you're like, hey, guess what? I'm going to either Heimdall and generate a million more numbers than you'll ever see, or I'm going to disrupt you. And they cannot make a good choice there. And it's got a lot of skill expression. It's very clever what you can do. There's a lot of alternate builds. Move with balance pieces, move with disruption. It's a fun place to be. Is it good for the meta? Right now, yes. If it somehow became like, hey, this is 30% of the meta, it'd be frustrating because this does have a you must be this tall to ride as well, where if your opponent cannot shang your cards, then they will not match your numbers hardly ever. But for now, I'd say it's good to see Move in the spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, this deck is the least interesting deck, I guess. Like, I think it's even more, like, less interesting than Hela in the sense that, like, these cards all obviously go together. I think, as Glazer pointed out at the beginning, like, to me, the Cosmo is even more the, like, flex slot here. That could be, like, literally any tech card that you're concerned about. But it's just sort of like, what?
Has to be Cosmo right now.
It has
Shadow
to be
King,
Cosmo?
Shadow King, Shang-Chi, and then the prevalence of Hela. Cosmo plus Madam Web is very often your last turn move.
I mean, that's totally fair. But like, this is just like the best cards with the word "move" on them, plus the dog. And
Doctor Strange is somewhere cursing you.
Yes, I know. But I should have
actually like Doctor Strange a lot more than Cloak.
Which is fair.
I do in multiple man versions, not this one.
There we go. That's fair. This is also, I guess, all multiple man is the other thing that's from like sort of like from tier 1, move lists. But yeah, I mean, this deck is, to quote early Simpsons, perfectly cromulent. Like, I just like don't have strong feelings about it. It's powerful right now. Obviously, the few games I played this week, like, Move has put up insane numbers, but it's not very interesting. I think it's fine that this deck exists. I think particularly it has to put up such insane numbers if Hela is going to exist. I think actually, if I'm being like really, really, really hot takey, I think this is just Hela with extra steps. Like, it makes you feel like you're Aristotle, but you're doing the same kind of thing where you're just moving cards between zones and
it's
making
so
numbers
extra
go big.
Steps though. This one's like calculus.
It can be and it can't be. Like, I have both won and lost games. I'm not talking about at like the 50th best player versus the 51st best player. I'm talking about most people, Aaron. Okay. This is definitely algebra, maybe at its all right. It is a lot of zone moving, and that's fun, but I think that it is a lot closer to Hela than maybe, again, the Aristotle wannabes out there want to admit.
I actually think you bring up an interesting point. For us who've been playing at least since the launch, if not earlier, in the early access, both Move and Hela have been around the entire time. So we have seen how this goes. It's not new, and it's not that exciting, really. Actually would be interested for them to print another card that gets paid off for actually moving, because we haven't had one since Spider-Man 2099, and it's weirdly not in this list, and somehow we forgot to talk about it.
Well, I don't
There's
think
a
it's
few-
weirdly that we stopped talking about
there's a
Saturday. I
couple
love that
decent
card.
29. There's a couple decent 29.99 lists now. They're just
Yeah.
they're not going. So I don't think this is strange. I think 29.99 is a move package card, but not a move card. It's a card where if you want to do like 2 moves or 3 moves in a game, it gets a lot of value. But like if you're trying to move like 17 things, right? Like you'd rather get the extra 6 on Vulture or the extra 12 on Dagger, 32 on Human Torch.
Yeah.
I wonder if once the newness of some of the pieces wears off, this starts to feel like Destroy, where it's like, oh look, they opened with Deadpool into Destroy card into Destroy card, I lose the game.
So
Like, does this become, oh look, they opened Arana into Human Torch into Ghost Spider, I lose the game?
Destroy just has more redundancy than this even now. This
It
has
really
a lot
does.
of move enablers, but it doesn't have a lot of move payoffs. Right? Like there's like Heimdall is not null. Heimdall is a move enabler, right? Null is a
No.
move payoff. Like
That
death
whole
is a
deck
move
can
is a
go-
destroy payoff. So
Yeah.
the other big difference here between this and Hela, and like that's like the problem with Hela isn't that it's just making big numbers. It's that it's making big numbers that you can interact with. Move is almost the easiest thing right now to interact with. Move is like in no way hard to interact with at all, even given the Cosmo. Like things get big enough to Shang and are sitting there on the board. Things get big enough to that Shadow, and they come from small enough that Shadow King alone. I've won lanes with like 40 power Dagger. Just I'm like, Shadow King, thank you. You don't have anything left for this. Like that does not exist for Hela. That is not a thing you can do for Hela, and that's like a meaningful difference in a card game. That one of these is interactable and like without like building your deck to interact with it.
Oh, I do have. Oh, go ahead.
It is interesting that Second Dinner, I think, really wants Move to be good and playable and popular. Like they have nerfed Professor X out of existence. They have like printed all these different move enablers, but like to the point where it's not uncommon to see a Human Torch like over 100 power in a game. And yet I think people kind of are only playing it begrudgingly. So I don't know.
Well, it's really, really great for the next 2 weeks, and then they're releasing a card that counters move.
Yeah.
That 217 is pretty good.
I think I have a question, which is Falcon resets activates or does not reset activates?
Nothing resets.
Nothing resets activates. Cool. And then I think Madam Web. I think where I'm slightly disagree with Glazer is I think Madam Web creates Dagger into a real payoff for playing move, and puts it in a bit more of a redundant spot than it has been in the past. Because before it was kind of like Vulture and Human Torch if there's no...
Before it was terrible.
Yes.
And Madam Web makes it good.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, but if you don't see Madam Web, you're just playing a bad deck.
I mean, there are other options. Because remember, like frequently playing move, again, unless you're at that, like I'm the 49th best player playing the 48th best player, you will spend a lot of time trying to not play Heimdall on turn 6. Be like, no, it's got to be a better play. And then the play is actually to just play Heimdall on turn 6, like a bot. Like there's a lot, like, all right, so that's the thing to keep in mind about this deck.
So, yeah, it depends what version you're playing, right? This version is, again, specifically teched for Hela, which doesn't care. Like, against Hela, you just Heimdall on turn 6, right? You bought it. But, like, there's versions that are running Goliath as a top end. There's versions that are running Tribunal as a top end. That's pretty much the only 2 cards that are top end. But there's versions that are sort of foregoing a lot of the other techie stuff and running Symbiote Spider-Man shenanigans with multiple men as their mid-range, and Hercules as power amplifiers, and yada, yada, yada. Like, there's all these different versions that, like, don't just Heimdall at the end. But the meta has said, right now, you can't interact with me. Right? The most popular deck right now, by far, is Hela. And so, because of that, like, that's, again, why I don't like Hela, because it does things like this, where I don't have to worry about your interaction with me. I just go, what should I play? I should play the biggest thing that makes the most numbers that go brr, because nothing else matters.
I'd be curious to see what the stats are on Shang-Chi compared to, like, every other point in the format. So it feels
it's
missing.
it's very low. It's very low, Shang-Chi. I think this is the best deck in the game if you're good though, or a version of this, if not this particular one. Like I think good players with this beat the shit out of Hela.
Sure.
I mean, I can't. I lose. I'm like barely 50-50 with this against Hela. But like really good players, I watch them. Like fucking Sizer rolls Hela with this all the time, and I'm like, yeah, fuck you, man. Like it's like turn 5, and he's like, all I'm doing is playing an Iron Fist because I have these 5 things to do. I'm like, what? Wait, what? That I didn't see that. Like, all right, good for you. Like, move is like we can be like, you just play Heimdall all you want. Like, you watch people who are good with this shit, and this is like Move and Phoenix Force, man, are just so complicated. To like anyone can play them okay, and the people who are good with them, it's like no one's that good with Destroy. It doesn't fucking matter if you're that good with Destroy, but if you're that good with Move, you're just like 5 steps ahead, and it's just like shit.
All right. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. So let's move on to Bounce. All right. So Bounce, which is a perennial discussion topic on this show. We've got
My favorite
Hood,
deck.
Rocket Raccoon, Silver Sable. I'm going to briefly say this because I haven't been on the show. Silver Sable is in the Hall of Infamy of Marvel Chef for ugliest base art. Like, this is just, like, actively unpleasant to look at. Just like White Widow. Like, I don't know what it is with, like, the female super villain-ish, heroes-ish, anti-heroes in white outfits. But, like, damn. This is, like, I bought a variant because I, like, literally could not look at this base art. Just like I couldn't look at White Widow. Anyway, Silver Sable, we got Nico, we've got Black Swan, we've got Falcon, we've got Kate Bishop Hawkeye, we've got US Agent, which all of us got from the Spotlight keys a couple weeks ago, Sage, Werewolf, Hitmonkey, and Beast. All right, Aaron, I normally throw it to our guests, but this is your favorite deck. Thoughts, feelings, opinions.
If they didn't make Hela good, a version of this with Shadow King would be the best deck in the game. Is my basic take. I think this would be the single best deck in the game. It would run Shadow King, and that would give it some play against the move. And then it would be like a can you pull off the Shadow King without screwing yourself up type play. Right? I think this would be the best deck in the game. I also think that Werewolf is a dead card the second, I believe it's Scorn comes out. So, like, Scorn is believe a 2/1? 2/2 that steals 2 power from an opponent's card once per turn anytime they move. So you move Werewolf instead of Werewolf getting 2 power, Scorn gets 2 power, and that seems like a bad thing for running Werewolf. So Werewolf probably just doesn't exist if that card sees play. But like this should be the heyday of Move. This is like a damn near perfect 12, and it cannot beat Hela if Hela runs Luke Cage.
Birds of Paradise?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think this 12 looks freaking adorable. Like, what a gorgeous set of cards to play with. Every single one of these is just fun to use, and you get to use them multiple times. And I kind of agree with Pulse Glazer. Like, I don't think it matters. Like, the things that are good against Hela, like Clog, also make moves super sad, or bounce super sad. And I just don't think you're going as big as moves. So what are you doing with your life? You get to watch a Werewolf bounce around the board a whole bunch, and then you lose.
It's fun to watch Werewolf bounce.
I mean, that is fair. It is actually very fun to watch Werewolf bounce.
It's Halloween.
Yeah, every one of these cards is cool. Like, the skill expression here is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's quite good enough.
I don't think it's good.
I don't know. This is not a deck I've actually played, so I will withhold judgment. But I will say I love US Agent. I play a lot of US Agent.
US Agent is, again, great if Luke Cage is out of the meta. Right.
Yeah.
It feels real bad to spend your part of your turn 6 playing a 2/3. It does nothing. And sometimes hits your stuff and not their stuff. If they have Luke, you're like, oh. You're mean. Yeah, I don't know. This one makes me sad. They finally got Black Swan right just in time to make the meta no.
Yeah. We'll see. I think we also are getting the symbiote that is
Bounce one, yeah.
bounce buff. So we'll see what that can do.
That's going to have to replace Werewolf, so at least there's that.
Yeah.
I genuinely think the move your opponent stuff deck is going to be a real deck.
Ooh,
If it is, I'm going to be excited for that because I've wanted that to be good and it never has been.
Agreed.
So it's not bad, right? Like, I think it gets mixed with Clog. I don't think it's a deck. I think it's a package. And gets mixed with Clog, and like then you're just like, perfect.
That's fair. I just want to say it was the Ryan Gonzalez variant. That's what I bought for
It
Silver
was
Sable
gorgeous. I love it.
Yes, it was. It was
I have
worth
2
all
variants because I like that card.
1,400 gold on day one, so I could actually
she
look
was,
at a
she
card
was
in my
700.
collection.
She was
Was it
a
700?
700, yeah.
Oh, she was a 700. Hey, good
Pretty sure.
value then. Still, again, they need to stop doing that, particularly for cards you pay. I guess I opened on the Silver Sable week, I think, because that was that the week with US Agent. Because I wanted US Agent, so
yes,
I opened on that week. Yeah, I mean, like for me, like Glazer was pining about Move being like the most difficult deck to play. To me, like Bounce is the really difficult deck to sort of play at a really high level. I think the single saddest thing about this deck is actually the pool 5 number. The fact that it's like so expensive.
Yeah, that's wild.
7 cards is like kind of crazy, but this deck is super sweet, and I would not be surprised if they revert the Hellcow change in a week, that this deck is not the most, if not one of the most powerful decks.
I believe there are 8 high series cards in this one, but I could be miscounted.
You are you're pool 4, but pool 4 is not as bad as
Monkey.
Yeah,
Sitting
Monkey.
in series 4.
So, all right. This is I believe the next
Wait,
one is...
I just pour one out quickly? Pouring
Sure.
one out for Nate Biz's bounce. I was so excited for this deck. I wish... Whatever. All right.
All right. War Machine combo. Rhodey gets his moment in the sun. All right. We've got this week's card. We've got Nebula. We've got Ebony Maw. We've got the ugly, terrible base art White Widow here. Boom. All right. We've got Jeff, who has great base art, by the way. Like, Jeff, you don't need a variant for. I mean, there's some great Jeff variants, but great base art. Storm, also great base art. Jubilee, War Machine, Crossbones, Legion, Doctor Doom, and Infinite. So, Birds of Paradise, as we bring it home today, what do you think about the War Machine, play your stuff anywhere combo deck?
This one is a really interesting deck to me and kind of a puzzling thing that Second Dinner has done, actually, because they went so hard against cards that stop your opponents from playing the game, and then, maybe without realizing it, made this change to War Machine, without even changing his power, by the way. Like, and if you don't get the combo, you can still play a 620 on the last turn. It's a pretty sweet deck. The day that the patch happened, I won a bunch by playing Echo with Jean Grey, and then actually made them play their War Machine into the Echo, which they probably had a 33% chance of doing anyway because Echo's invisible. But deck's pretty sweet. It was kind of painful that day, though, just getting Legion locked over and over.
Yeah, this is one of the things I've heard people complain about the most when it comes to, is this deck healthy for the format? A 5% play rate? Sure. Interesting thing to happen sometimes. If it got up to like 15% play rate, rebellion, fire, riots, it would not be happy because people really like playing cards. But card gamers know that other card gamers like playing cards, and so try and keep them from playing cards. But it's like there's a lot of clever little combos here that I think make the deck really fun. And when you play it, you don't feel like you are, entirely on rails. You feel like you're having a good time. And then you just get to throw down the Legion and go, ha, screw you, buddy. Only one of us gets a turn 6. Fun is a zero-sum game for this deck. And if you are playing it and having all the fun, your opponent's having none of the fun. It's not healthy for that to be the top of the meta, but I'm glad it exists. It's fun to mess with.
This is the most overrated deck in the history of Snap.
Oh, baby. Here we go.
I don't think this deck is good. I don't think this deck is dangerous. I don't think this deck is a problem. Storm into War Machine into Legion has to be turn 3, 4, 5. Has to be. And, like, the odds of that happening in a game of Marvel Snap are extremely low. And there's 7,000 ways to interact with that combo. Your own Legion, your own magic, your own pick a location changer, because they should not have cryo if you're playing a real deck. You can just play Quake and watch them turn everything into not flooded and giggle uncontrollably, which is how I was handling it. You can run Nocturne. Nocturne just says, "Wow, that was cute. Thanks for trying." You can run, like, there's just so many cards that answer this. You can just throw a Cosmo in the Storm lane. Right? Like, then it's like, ooh, well, guess you're not Legion in there, huh? Right? Like, these are, like, there's just a bajillion ways to answer this. And you can run a Super Scroll. You can run a Rogue, and then they did a bunch of work to give you a turn 6 that they don't get. Like, this deck is entirely face up. If it's popular, it's extremely beatable. And if it's not popular, and it gets you once in a while, then they just hit their stupid giant Galactus combo that never comes together, where they're trying to do like 17 things into Galactus, and it's like, you know what? Good for you, friend. Like, just I don't understand. Like, I understand the hate for this, right? It sucks on the games you can't play, and it's always going to feel like every time you see this, it goes off. But, like, that's not even remotely true. Pick any 3, 4, 5 combo, and then just, like, don't even play this. Pick any 3, 4, 5 combo that you want, and go, how often do I see these 3 cards on turn 3, 4, and 5 exclusively? Like, you can't, like, I've played a lot of Wiccan decks. How often do you see Wiccan by turn 4? Not Wiccan and other cards. Wiccan, period, whether you can trigger him or not, by turn 4. A reasonable number of the time, but a lot? Like, 50, 60% of the time, right? A little more, maybe? And that's one card on turn 4. Like, now you need a card on turn 4, but you also need the exact right card on turn 3 and the exact right card on turn 5. Like, this one's been driving me crazy. This is included literally, so I could say this, because I'm not going to feature this fucking deck on a video and waste everyone's time to say this. Because, like, it's at best a mediocre deck. Like, this deck straight up doesn't exist in top 10% infinite, and then, like, it's got a middling win rate in top 50% infinite. Like, this will beat the shit out of some bots, except the bots are still going to retreat. Like, I don't know what you're going for with this list. Like, I don't know who you're beating consistently. Like, and if you, like, Marvel Snap is not a game of bluff snaps. It's been 2 years. We should all know that by now. So no one's, like, Storm War Machining and then fake snapping you. If they do those 2 things and snap you, you say, enjoy your cube, have a wonderful day. And, like, now they just took 5 games to get their one stupid combo, and they got a cube for it. Like, want a cookie? Like, I just don't get it. I
mean, it does have a lot of, like, other little things it can do.
Sure, but, like, then they're not broken. You're just playing a fun game of Marvel Snap with, like, with an opposing deck that's a fun mid-range deck. No problems.
And it is mostly a feel bads thing. Like, it doesn't come up that often, and when it does, people get grumpy. Like, I'm in a lot of Snap Discords. Man, people were so angry when people were playing this right after patch.
Yep.
It was like, yeah, it's going to disappear in like 2 days, guys. Just calm down and move on with your lives.
Well, the reason it disappeared is because people who were playing it realized they weren't winning.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't disappear because they were winning and felt guilty. It disappeared because, like, they were like, huh, this isn't consistent at all. Maybe I should play a deck that wins.
We did lose to Peaceful Sea on stream when he was playing this deck.
Look, I've lost to this deck plenty. Sometimes it does the thing, right? Like, and sometimes I even stay to go, I wonder if they really have it. But you know whose fault that is? Mine. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like they're not fake snapping, and I'm like, I wonder if they really have it. I mean, no shit, I'm so starting. And then, you know what I do? I stay through turn 6 because I deserve it. Like, drop your infinite or do. And, like, you can see them being like, you're not retreating? It's like, nah, man, like, I was stupid. Like, I knew you had it, and I just sat here like a fucking moron. So, like, if I'm that dumb, enjoy your 4 cubes.
Yeah,
Like,
if you're the fish, be the fish.
Yeah, like, I I don't even hate this deck. I think this deck is like a nothing burger of nothing burgers that like we're all forced to talk about. There's versions
This
of
list
this
is
I like.
extremely cute. I do think that there's some different things you can do with War Machine, Infinite, and Ghost Rider that are kind of cool, but and you can include the combo.
It's the new Pixie combo. If you go Pixie Mobius and you have a lot of these cards, like good things start to happen. That's what I keep being told by like other players. I haven't really like explored it much myself because I don't like Pixie very much. Like it's very Pixie. Good. Well, check Thursday's video because Mystery LA, was it Thursday? It was probably Thursday. Mystery LA had a really, really great version of it, and I've got like 4 more of those if you want me to DM them to you. They're all just like variations on Pixie Mobius, and then Maw, War Machine, and Infinite, and then it's just you fill out the rest of the deck. Sometimes with like Hope and She-Hulk, sometimes with, I don't know, there's a Zooey version. There's a whole bunch. It's fun.
That's cool. I'm glad this exists. And if this is like the most powerful the lockout deck is, like, good. People who really want it can play it, and it won't ruin the meta for anybody.
Can I give you one more hot take?
Sure.
War Machine is still a mediocre card.
I agree.
It's way more fun, though.
Yeah, I think that's lukewarm at best. I don't think that's hot.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, if this is the top end of really what War Machine decks are doing, then yeah, it's a mid card. Because this is a mid-range
Ghost Rider tier.
So, but hey, it's still, hey, if you really, really hate Sanctum Sanctorum, you can really play War Machine all the time. All right.
It's a fun deck.
You could just play Madam Web. All right.
All right. So, our penultimate segment of every week is the variant of the week. This week we picked Agatha, but there's only 2 choices. All right. Who is the hip folks this week? Who picked hip for Agatha?
Me, obviously.
Oh, okay.
It's got the cat in it. Like the other 3 of you all picked the same one, so like you can all talk about how you like Professor Agatha, but you don't have a kitty in yours, so I win.
I mean, that's fair. The hip one is really good, but like the teacher one is really good. I have it in black and white. I have it in like it's a really good variant. So,
you know, Glazer, you did kind of convert me over to the hip one. I just don't own it, so
yeah. Oh, I have every hip in the game except for 3 bundle ones.
Didn't spend that money.
How could you not love the Professor one, Glazer? You're a teacher.
There's not a
we
cat.
should speak to you. There is an Agatha Professor in your heart screaming to get out.
I love being a teacher. I just like cats more. Like my Instagram isn't a bunch of teacher memes.
That's what he says. But it's Schrodinger's, for most people out there, it's Schrodinger's Instagram. It could be Glazer is really bored teachers and making bored teachers reels left and right out there on Instagram. And
yeah. The 18 other pieces of content I make, I'm sitting there making teacher reels. That's what I'm doing. Like, hey, man. Launching a second channel on top of the 18 other Marvel Snap things I've done. But teacher reels. I want to spend more time thinking about teaching.
I do want to say this Agatha Harkness, I believe, is from Strange Academy, which is a great series. So.
All right.
All right. So, Nerds of Paradise. Real quick, why don't you remind our loyal listeners and viewers where they can find you, and if they check you out, what would they get on your channel?
Every time you come to our channel, we're going to be very silly. We're going to try really hard and do okay. And we're going to give you some fun things from 2 guys who've been playing card games our entire lives. And we got an awesome little community.
Yeah. If you are into Magic the Gathering, we actually were sponsored by Wizards of the Coast recently. Well, they made us an ambassador for Duskmourn. So if you want to check out some Duskmourn content, we have some kind of exclusive stuff on our channel as well, which is topical for the time being. But mostly we do Marvel Snap, and that's our most consistent stuff. We have a great time, and our viewers have a great time too, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So my favorite thing in Marvel Snap that I used to do all the time before content creation ate my free time was get on a Discord call and stream playing games or watch people stream playing games and talk it through. And I don't get to do that anymore, so I get to do that by watching the Nerds of Paradise. And it's a genuine joy. It's like my favorite experience. If you've never done it, if you've never hopped on a Discord call and played Marvel Snap with friends, you should. And like I don't mean like a random Discord like where you just go live and random people come talk to you. I mean people that know each other well, brothers, friends, like people that like it's not the same feeling. It's amazing and it's lovely, and that's what you get from watching the Nerds of Paradise. And like if you don't have a friend that you can do that with, you should watch Nerds of Paradise. And then when you do that with your friend and you realize how much fun it is and you realize how hard that is to schedule, you should spend your mornings with the Nerds of Paradise also.
That was a very good sell, Glazer.
Thank you.
Was really
Thank you
good.
so much.
That was way better than what we could do.
I know, I like people. All right. Roy, go ahead.
All right, it's time for our favorite segment each and every week. Time to count the number of breaths it takes Glazer to get through all of our patrons. Let's see how it goes.
Thank you to Abigail Giesler, Matt Turburner, Cables, regardless, David G. Winfield, Darrell, Philly, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gaming, I'm Frostman, Jane Everett, Rowan, Prime, Brian, Reinberg, Caretaker Lee, Corey Ray, Black Dahlia, Prime Frost, Archangel 3K, The Go-To, Gadema, Falcon, Crypto, Joe, Docu, Fatnik, Mr. Kerfuffle, Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, Haplo, Kenny Luggins with the J. Zone, Rob Silverman, The Biz, Exorcy, and CPG, Time and Nikes, 217, Season 1, Kinker Bros, Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, Kefsi Hoda, Ludacris, Quantum Quinn, John Q, Jim McHugh, Clam, 8th Stage, Mod Supreme Models, Darth Sater, Joe P, who's no Joe K, Brian Coffin, Tristan Martin, Jason B, Jason Claudino, The Fuzz of Dunlop, Spectrum X, Hoot, Matt H, GG McHedgick, Snowflex, Oculars, Craig Sterry, Seamus, Jonesy, Two Ties, Lauren Medez, The Pirate King Tuccrr, The Homeman, and of course, Gunny T, where the T stands for. That was 4?
4 or 5? You did stutter there. Your speed started off really good, my friend.
It's because I stuttered, yeah. It wasn't
my friend.
breath.
The speed was good, and then you kind of lost it, and I think it was actually the speed that got you the breaths there. You weren't focused on like really just doing it. You were like, I'm doing it as fast as possible. That's the trap, man. You fell into the trap. Just like our loyal listeners fell into the trap of watching or viewing this show, and we entrapped our very special guests. But we have to say goodbye. We have to release them from the trap now. Nathan, Logan, thank you so much for being on the show. We really enjoyed having you on, and this was an absolutely blast to record.
It was a blast. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Glazer, it is a pleasure most weeks to record this show with you. So thank you so much for joining me once again.
Peace and love, everybody.
All right, haters be damned. I will be back for the foreseeable future on Snap Judgments. So I am excited to join all you loyal listeners and loyal viewers each and every week here on Snap Judgments. Till then, stay safe, make good choices, and keep on snapping.